August 6th, Brennan Manning.
Hurting people hurt people. Let forgiveness put an end to that cycle. Brennan Manning learned a harsh lesson from a cold and a distant mother. She had made him believe what she believed. You don't always get what you want. Years later, when Brennan got the call that his mother had died, he felt no grief. He was mad that he would actually have to attend her funeral. Her death certainly didn't erase all the years of abuse and pain and shame that he had endured. My mother had completely lost her memory, Brennan said, but I had not. He flew to New Jersey and he checked into a motel room near the funeral location. But he didn't go to the church and he didn't pay his respects. He went instead to the liquor store and he bought scotch. He locked himself into the hotel room and he shut the curtains and drank the time away. Thoughts of his mother plagued him. Brennan had no memory of ever being hugged, held, or kissed, not by her. Once, when she had said she loved his older brother more than him, she punched him over and over. Now, ashamed and alone in that motel room, he downed more alcohol, tried to forget, and he finally blacked out. The next day, Brennan woke, and he tried to remember where he was. Eventually, the truth became clear. He had blacked out from drinking, and he had actually missed his mother's funeral. He thought he could not feel more ashamed, but now he did. Another decade passed, and winter was on its way. One day, Brennan took time to talk to God about everything that was on his mind. His mother wasn't on that list of things to focus on. But when he was in the middle of a prayer, an image crossed his mind. He saw a little girl about 6. He knew it represented his mother when she had been a child. He saw her kneeling at the windowsill of an orphanage, her nose against the glass, praying for God to send her a mother and a father so that she could be loved. The little girl wanted to be cared for just like other kids. She never got the affection she so needed as a child. The image shook Brennan, and he realized his mother had been burned by life too. Because she had never gotten the affection she needed growing up, she didn't know how to give it away. In the vision, the little girl walked over to Brennan, and as she got closer, she aged. When she became the old woman he remembered from a decade ago, she said, "You know, I messed up a lot when you were a kid, but you turned out okay." Then she kissed him. Through his hurt and pain, Brennan learned a valuable lesson. God was showing him through the vision that it was okay to admit that shame had affected him all those years. But he couldn't allow it to disable him any longer. He could no longer be controlled by it. He looked at her and he said, "I forgive you." In the vision, his mother smiled back. "I guess sometimes you do get what you ask for." He later wrote about the experience and he said, "A trusting heart is forgiven and in turn forgives." Luke 6:37, "Do not judge and you will not be judged. Do not condemn and you will not be condemned. Forgive and you will be forgiven." Resentment will cripple you. Release it. Hurting people hurt people. Let forgiveness put an end to that cycle.
Day 365 Christian Men. My name is Mike Mott. Today is August 6th. I'm coming to you from Jerusalem, Israel, where I'm serving here together with my wife and our 2 children. You know, it's interesting, by design, by God's design, we will spend a great portion of our lives with other people, whether it's friends and family, co-workers, acquaintances, neighbors, and a lot of time those interactions with other people will hurt us, offend us, bring pain into our lives, just like we saw in the story with Brennan Manning today. And all too often, our first human response is to kind of build up a wall of unforgiveness, of resentment around ourselves to protect us from that other person or those other people. This is what Brennan Manning did. The problem, though, with this model is that every time we build up a wall of resentment and unforgiveness around our lives, thinking that it's going to protect us, we're actually barricading ourselves from the very life that God has died to give to us. You see, interestingly, unforgiveness over a long period of time hurts us more than the initial offense and injury from another person. And this is exactly why the enemy wants us to hold on to unforgiveness. Because when we hold on to a grudge, when we continue to hold on to unforgiveness, we're the ones that are crippled. And so that's why Satan wants us to be holding on to unforgiveness all the time. However, when we look at God's example to us and his actions towards us, those actions and example are always of forgiveness. And so that we see that Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians chapter 8 that Jesus, who was willing to die for us, he says that Jesus was, as rich as he was willing to give it all away. And in one stroke, he became poor so that we could become rich. As he gave his life away, we received life. And then Jesus tells us in the book of Matthew that as we forgive others, the same way that he's forgiven us, if we forgive other people, that opens a floodgate of his life, his forgiveness into our lives. And that's the challenge for us today, guys. What is that resentment, that grudge, that unforgiveness that you're holding on to today? Whether it's against a spouse or a friend or a colleague, a neighbor, a sibling, thinking as you hold on to that unforgiveness that it's protecting you, that it's giving you life. If you want true life today, God's life, forgive that person. Forgive those people. The same way that Jesus has forgiven you, and as soon as you forgive them, it will trigger a cascading flood of God's life and forgiveness into your life. This is God's promise, and it's our challenge today, guys. God bless you. Have a great day.